What I'd like to talk about in this video is how we approach a note. In the last newsletter, I showed you how to play Amazing Grace. And then I said, actually, I'm really not going to teach you to play Amazing Grace. I'm going to teach you to play the Mode 5 scale. And by the time you're done playing the Mode 5 scale, you're going to be able to play Amazing Grace. And I really hoped that it was going to be successful with people. I didn't know if it would or not, but I kind of figured it would, but who knows, right? Maybe it would make sense and maybe it wouldn't. And yesterday a gentleman came by the shop he learned to play Amazing Grace, and he learned it by learning the Mode 5 scale just as I taught him in the video. And I was really, really excited for him because he was having trouble learning Amazing Grace and really kind of struggling with the whole song and all that. But by practicing the Mode 5 scale, all of a sudden he just heard Amazing Grace in the Mode 5 scale because it's right in that scale, and it really worked well for him. But what he was still struggling with was getting the half hole so that it sounded good. And so he says, I just hit the half hole really short, and I don't hold that note very long because I don't want to, I don't want people to hear it too much. I'm just going to brush by it and get off it as quick as I can so that we can get on to the notes that do sound good. And that's a valid technique. There's certainly times that I've done that type of thing to make a particular piece work for me in a maybe a performance that I was doing. But what would be much nicer to be able to do is to be able to even hang on to the note and have it sound wonderful and have people just in love with that note as you play it, this note that's supposed to be the weak note, and actually make that note awesome, right? And so how do we do that? And it really comes down to well, as my friend said, he said it's just the playing it 10 billion times in a row over and over again. And yes, there's no shortcut for 5 minutes a day playing a particular thing that you're working on. For example, if you really want to learn the half whole note for 5 minutes a day, you'll do this exercise. And you're going to, as you do that exercise, you're going to be listening for better note quality. When I first start, it may sound like this. And that's okay. But as you're playing it, work towards getting it to sound in tune and getting the notes to sound nice and even together, right? Allow yourself the grace that each day you're going to grow, and maybe one day you fall back a little bit, but the next day you grow a little bit more, because every day you spend 5 minutes a day practicing that one little technique. But what I want to really talk about is not so much the exercises, although I do want to show those exercises. The other exercise that we want to do before I get to this other topic is I want to be able to get to the half whole note from anywhere. So, for example, I want to be able to go, right? Because I want to be able to come, when I come down on Amazing Grace, I may want to come in. Right? I may want to come to that note in many different ways, going up and down. And so I want to practice that. I may even want to practice going, right? It just so that it's bringing all my fingers together, the timing is working together, and I'm getting them all down in the right position together, and getting that timing down together. And so practicing that, but start with one. So start with, work on that for a week. The next week, work on, And the next week, maybe work on, and just kind of move up until, you know, a few weeks down the road, you're, and you may even work out some other exercises through that whole time that works for you. And those exercises are all good. And as you're doing it, you want to make sure that your flute's not wetting out, because wetting out is going to make really playing the half hole more difficult and things. And so you want to kind of pay attention to that. But really what I want to talk about in this video is something a little bit more subtle than just fingering the pattern. It's the breath control that it takes to get a good sounding note in different places, like in the half hole. When I hit that note in the half hole, if I hit it the same way I hit a note, like I would say this note, that note is so solid on the flute, right? It's easy to play. Any breath you play on the flute, that note is just awesome, right? It just works. And that's a function of how many holes there are below it. It's very stable. You have very little inertia in here that you have to deal with. And so it makes it really easy. And I can hit that with a hard breath and it sounds good. I can hit it with an increasing breath, where I start off a little softer and then bring it up a little bit, and it sounds good. I could probably hit it with a t, and it sounds good, where I hit it t, and I back off and it still sounds good. But those same things I can't quite do with this half hole. For example, if I hit the half hole with I'm gonna go from no breath to full breath in one jump. Trying to do it. There was one point where it kind of squeaked a little bit, but it all kind of sounds a little raspy. It doesn't really sound fantastic. Instead, what I want to do, in fact, let's try even worse. Let's put a little t with it. That shows what I'm trying to talk about a lot better. So that high speed at the first edge of playing the note causes that note to want to jump octave. It causes it to want to do weird stuff because you have a lot of inertia in this tube down here, and you only have a little teeny bit of air space that you get to work with to change that note with that great big tube of inertia. And so what I want to do, rather than hit it with a t or hit it with a 0 to full pressure, I want to hit it with a gradual increase to pressure. Now, we're not talking about a slide. We're not talking about going. We're not talking about that. Right? That's too slow. We want to get to our pressure fairly fast, but we want to do it with a soft edge to getting to that pressure. So I'm not going to go from a hard, I'm not going to give it a t, which gives me a really solid hard edge to the note, but I'm going to go kind of more gradual. Just a nice clean pressure. Okay, so that's just kind of, I'm ramping it, but I'm ramping it really, really pretty quick. Now the next thing that I want to do is I noticed that I teach on my DVD to move your finger back and forth like this, and that's definitely a good technique. But when I notice that when I actually play, I actually roll my finger a little bit more than I do just back and forth. I kind of do both. I kind of come back and roll it. And that rolling opens up more of the hole, but my finger is still covering part of the hole, even though it's not touching it, rather than if I'm like this and I've got it's same note, but as this gives me more open space, and so that makes it easier with all that inertia to get to the note that I want to and get there smooth without it wanting to jump octave or do something funky. Conversely, exact opposite is the above note octave. So I've got above note or above octave notes. I have this note and I have this note, right? Those are above note octaves. And when I hit those notes, I want to hit those with a fast blast of air right off the bat so that they jump into the overblow really quick. And so it's a lot easier to do with a little bit of a t. So I hit that note with a t, and but I don't hit it and sustain it. So I'm saying t, but that's not what I do. If I play it like that, this is what it sounds like. And that's t, and I'm just keep blowing at that same speed. Instead, I want to hit a quick T and then back off real quick and just enough to sustain the note so that it just sounds sweet. It just sounds like a really sweet note rather than this hard edge. Right? And so it's just a and then back down. I hope that made sense. It's a kind of an advanced topic, but I think that what I would like you to get out of this video more than anything is just think about the breath pressure that you're applying when you're starting a note. Right? Some notes are going to need you to start with a softer breath. Some notes are going to need a fast, quick breath. It just depends on the note on the flute that you're playing as to which kind of breath pressure you're going to want to give it as you're playing. I hope that helps some, and hope you're having a great time making music. And this technical stuff is great for trying to improve ourselves and things like that, but if what I said didn't make sense to you, forget it. Don't worry about it. Somebody else will, you'll be able to learn it from somebody else much better than I was able to teach it to you. However, if it made sense to you, apply it, use it, apply it to your music, and start, making that music your own with the new techniques that you learn. So I hope it helps. If there's anything that I can do to help you on your journey with the native flute, I would love to. You can reach me at 801-822-1415 or brent@woodsounds.com. Have a great day.